Most people think old Fords are just slow, rusty classics, but wait till you see what these things survived. From engines that could run with zero coolant to frames so overbuilt they survived police piet maneuvers, some of these machines were engineered to outlive their drivers. So let's dive into 9 old Fords that were truly built to last forever. Number 9. The 1961 to 1967 Lincoln Continental. Now, if there's one old Ford that perfectly defines built to last, it's the 1961 Lincoln Continental. This was a tank disguised in a tuxedo. Back in the day, Lincoln engineers weren't chasing 0 to 60 times or cost efficiency. They were chasing perfection and durability. Everything in this car was overbuilt, literally. The Continental's early versions ran on the mighty MELV8 with 365 horsepower, but things got even more impressive when Ford dropped in the 460 cubic inch big block later on. That engine wasn't meant to win drag races. It was designed to outlive its owners. The 460's cast iron block was massive, with thick cylinder walls and water jackets big enough to cool a small house. Even though it pushed only around 365 horsepower, it could cruise effortlessly with its 5,000-pound weight like it was nothing. And that bulletproof C6 3-speed automatic transmission? Mechanics still talk about how tough it was, practically unbreakable. The Continental also had a chassis and suspension that laughed in the face of potholes. Real leather interiors, genuine wood trim, industrial-grade window motors, everything screamed quality. Even the smallest details were engineered for endurance. Sure, it wasn't the fastest car on the road, but you could drive it for 300,000 miles, and it would still idle like a dream. That was Lincoln's idea of luxury: quiet confidence and unshakable reliability. And just when you think Ford couldn't get any tougher, meet the monster that proved Americans could build diesel engines to rival anyone in the world. Number 8. The 1994 to 2003 Ford 7.3 Powerstroke diesel. If the Continental was about refined durability, the 7.3 Powerstroke diesel was about raw industrial strength toughness. Introduced in 1994, this engine became the heart of Ford's Super Duty trucks, the kind that pull the mountains, cross deserts, and still ask for more. Ford teamed up with Navistar and borrowed a few ideas from Caterpillar to create something revolutionary: the 7.3-liter Powerstroke with HEUI fuel injection. It didn't scream with horsepower, just 210 to 250 horsepower, but that's exactly why it lasted forever. The 7.3 was built to run comfortably under its limits. Its cast iron block and heads were so robust that even a million miles didn't scare them. Some owners have clocked over 1.3 million miles on original injectors and turbochargers. That's not luck, that's engineering. Everything about the Powerstroke was built for abuse: heavy-duty cooling systems, thick cylinder walls, and a fuel system that almost never failed. Mechanics loved it because it was simple. You didn't need fancy software, just basic tools and experience. These engines hauled trailers through mountain passes, idled for hours in freezing weather, and still fired up like new. 500,000 miles was just breaking in, so it's safe to say that the 7.3 was a legend. And speaking of legends, Ford built another one that became a cult favorite among police departments and taxi fleets alike: the unbeatable Crown Victoria Police Interceptor. Number 7. The 1992 to 2011 Ford Crown Victoria. Now, if there's ever been a car that defines indestructible workhorse, it's the Ford Crown Victoria, especially the Police Interceptor version. From 1992 to 2011, this beast ruled the roads of America. Police departments, taxi fleets, even security firms all trusted one thing: the Crown Vic could take abuse like no other. High-speed chases, long idling in the heat, constant hard braking, the Crown Vic shrugged it all off. What made it so tough was the old-school recipe: rear-wheel drive, a strong body-on-frame design, and Ford's trusty 4.6-liter modular V8. On paper, it wasn't a monster, around 249 horsepower, but it was tuned for longevity, not glory. This thing could clock 300,000 miles and still sound healthy. The transmission, a reinforced descendant of Ford's bulletproof C6 automatic, could handle the stop-and-go punishment of city patrols without ever giving up. And that frame, that's where the magic really was. While newer cars used unibody construction, the Crown Vic stuck with its body-on-frame setup, which made it incredibly easy to repair after minor crashes. Instead of scrapping the whole chassis, you just bolted on new parts and kept rolling. That's why when police departments finally retired these cars, taxi companies snatched them up. They knew the engines were barely broken in. Even today, more than a decade after production ended, you'll still spot Crown Vics prowling the streets, outliving many of their replacements. They weren't flashy, but they were built on an engineering philosophy that valued strength, simplicity, and dependability above everything else. And speaking of icons built on timeless engineering, the next Ford proved that muscle and reliability could coexist beautifully. Meet the legend that started a revolution: the 1960s Ford Mustang with the legendary 289 engine. Number 6. The 1960s Ford Mustang, 289 engine. When the first Mustang hit the roads in 1964, it was an event. Ford had managed to pack performance, style, and everyday usability into one irresistible package. But the real heart of this legend was the 289 cubic inch V8, an engine that defined the phrase small but mighty. Now, this wasn't some brute force power plant. The 289 was all about balance, lightweight, rev-happy, and built like it wanted to last forever. Depending on the setup, it made anywhere from 195 to 271 horsepower, which was impressive for its time. And if you stepped up to the Shelby GT 350 version, it screamed to over 300 horses and kept on going without missing a beat. What made the 289 special was its smart engineering. Ford borrowed lessons from its racing programs, things like forged internals, solid lifter camshafts, and a simple small block layout. It could handle high revs, long drives, and plenty of spirited fun without breaking a sweat. Whether paired with the smooth C4 automatic or the crisp 4-speed manual, the Mustang 289 was as reliable as it was exciting. Decades later, you can still find these Mustangs running strong, some on their original engines. That's proof of just how right Ford got it. The Mustang showed the world that performance didn't have to come at the cost of reliability. It could, in fact, make reliability. And if you thought Ford stopped there, wait till you see what came next. A car-truck hybrid that carried muscle and endurance in one rugged frame. The Ford Torino and Ranchero with the mighty 351 Cleveland. Number 5. The 1970 to 1972 Ford Torino/Ranchero. Now, the early 70s were an interesting time for Ford. Muscle cars were starting to fade, and practicality was becoming the new trend. But Ford wasn't ready to let go of power just yet. Then came the Ford Torino and its rugged cousin, the Ranchero. These weren't just stylish American rides. They were built tough, built smart, and most importantly, built to last. And at the heart of that reliability was the legendary 351 Cleveland V8. This engine might not get the same hype as Ford's big block monsters, but ask any old school mechanic. They'll tell you the 351C was one of Ford's best small blocks ever. It had that perfect mix of brains and brawn. Its innovative canted valve cylinder heads allowed it to breathe like a performance engine, yet it stayed cool and stable under constant stress. The base 2-barrel version already pushed out 250 horsepower, while the 4-barrel variant cranked it up to an impressive 300. Not bad for an engine built over 50 years ago, but what do you think really made the 351 Cleveland special? Well, it was its durability. With forged internals, a sturdy lubrication system, and a cooling setup designed for long hauls, it just didn't know how to quit. Pair that with Ford's famous C6 automatic transmission, or even the bulletproof 4-speed manual, and you had a drivetrain that could survive anything short of an apocalypse. These Torinos and Rancheros were used for everything: taxis, police cars, work trucks, and many of them are still running today. Thick steel frames, simple mechanics, and that Cleveland heart made them legends of endurance. And when Ford decided to downsize and create a new kind of tough, something smaller, but just as unbreakable, that's how the world got the first Ford Ranger. Number 4. The 1983 to 1988 Ford Ranger. When Ford rolled out the Ranger in 1983, it wasn't trying to impress with power. It was trying to earn your trust. This was Ford's first truly compact pickup, and under the hood sat the humble yet heroic 2.3-liter Lima engine. On paper, 79 to 90 horsepower doesn't sound like much, but this little 4-cylinder had one mission: keep running no matter what. The Lima engine was all about simplicity done right. It had a cast iron block and head, heavy, yes, but almost indestructible. Its single overhead cam design was straightforward and stress-free, and depending on the version, you got either solid or hydraulic lifters, both known for their incredible longevity. You could push this engine hard day after day, and as long as you kept up with oil changes, it would just keep going. Hitting 300,000 miles wasn't rare. It was expected. Cooling was its only weak spot if you neglected it, but even then, a bit of care kept it bulletproof. Early models ran carburetors, while later ones introduced simple fuel injection, both easy to fix with basic tools and no fancy computers. That was the beauty of the Ranger. Everything was accessible, repairable, and designed to last. Contractors used them, small business owners depended on them, and families trusted them. The Ranger proved that toughness didn't need to come from raw power. It could come from smart, simple engineering that worked with time, not against it. And speaking of toughness and timeless appeal, Ford had already built a 4x4 Icon years before that could take on mud, mountains, and everything in between. Let's talk about the one that started an off-road legend, the first generation 1966 to 1977 Ford Bronco. Number 3. The 1966 to 1977 Ford Bronco. The original Ford Bronco wasn't just an SUV, it was Ford's answer to the wild American outdoors. When it launched in 1966, its mission was clear: take on the Jeep CJ5 and International Scout by offering something just as tough but far more livable. And boy, did Ford nail it. This was a machine built on pure mechanical honesty. No gimmicks, no luxury frills, just strong bones and dependable guts. Every first-gen Bronco came with 4-wheel drive as standard, which already set it apart. Its Dana 20 and later Borg-Warner transfer cases were purely mechanical. Manual levers, solid gears, and zero electronics. You could bash these through mud, snow, or rocks, and they'd just keep spinning, decade after decade. Under the hood, you had options: the heavy 200 cubic inch inline 6, the punchier 289, or the later 302 V8. But it was that humble 200 inline-six that became legendary for being almost impossible to kill. Keep the oil topped up and it would run forever, literally. The Bronco's suspension setup, whether the twin I-beam or twin traction beam, was built for endurance, not showboating. It didn't flex like a rock crawler, but it could handle years of abuse on rough terrain or city streets without complaint. Even rust couldn't stop this beast for long. Later models used galvanized steel to fight corrosion. Everything about the Bronco was overbuilt and easy to fix, sharing many components with the F-Series trucks. That's why, even today, you'll see battered old Broncos with 300,000 miles still rumbling through mountain trails. Paint faded, panels dented, but spirit unbroken. And speaking of workhorses with hearts of iron, Ford's next icon took the same function over fluff philosophy and wrapped it in a van body. The mighty 1961 to 1967 Ford Econoline. Number 2. The 1961 to 1967 Ford Econoline. Back in the early 60s, Ford did something clever. They took the compact Falcon platform, moved the engine between the seats, and created a van that redefined practicality, the first-generation Econoline. It was a strange little box on wheels at first glance, but under that unusual look was a masterpiece of simplicity and endurance. The Econoline's flat-nose, forward control design made it perfect for hauling stuff, offering a low floor and loads of space in a small footprint. It came with engines borrowed from the Falcon, most notably the 170 cubic inch inline-six making around 101 horsepower. Sure, it wasn't powerful, but that was the secret. It ran at low RPMs under minimal stress and just kept running. 200,000 miles was common, and 300,000 wasn't unheard of. Its unibody construction eliminated frame rust, and the simple suspension, an I-beam up front and leaf springs out back, could take years of abuse. Whether you were a delivery driver, carpenter, or family man, this van just didn't quit. The 3-speed manual and Ford-O-Matic transmissions were famously reliable, outlasting even the bodies they powered. And the best part? You didn't need fancy tools or training to fix it. Spark plugs could be changed from the driver's seat. Every repair could be done with a wrench set and some patience. To this day, even the most beat-up Econolines tend to start after decades of neglect. It's the kind of honest, overbuilt design modern engineers could learn a thing or two from. And before the Econoline came another legend, the truck that started Ford's entire reputation for toughness. Let's step back to where it all began. The 1948 to 1952 Ford F-Series. Number 1. The 1948 to 1952 Ford F-Series. The 1948 to 1952 F-Series trucks were tools for survival, built in a time when work hard and last forever was a necessity. These were the first official F-Series pickups, powered by engines that had already become legends. The 239 cubic inch flathead 5.8 and the reliable inline-six. The flathead, in particular, was the definition of simple brilliance. It used an incredibly basic design. Valves in the block instead of the head, few moving parts, and almost nothing to go wrong. That simplicity made it ridiculously durable. Farmers, tradesmen, and soldiers all trusted it because it never let them down. By 1948, Ford had been perfecting the flathead for 16 years. Every weakness had been ironed out. The result was an engine so sturdy it could run hot, under load, for hours without breaking a sweat. The cooling system was strong. The 3-speed manual gearbox had a granny low first gear that could pull a barn, and the frame was built from steel thick enough to make modern trucks blush. These trucks were pure mechanical muscle, overbuilt in every sense. 75 years later, many are still running, some even still working on farms or hauling loads. So which of these Fords do you think truly deserves the Built to Last Forever title? Drop your pick in the comments. And if you enjoyed this one, I know you'll love the next video, so don't stop here. Keep the engine running.